This is going to sound like so much hate, and I swear it's not. Warner Brothas Podcast, welcome back. Post-game reaction with Kyle. We just watched Game 4 of Pacers and Knicks Eastern Conference Finals. 130-121. Pacers win. Tough one if you're a Knicks fan. If you've heard me talk on this podcast before, you've heard me talk about how I root for every series to go to a Game 7, right? Unless it's, back in the day when I was a Celtics fan, unless it's my team or unless it's a team maybe I'm betting on, I want every series to go Game 7 or at least 6 games, right? Love me a competitive series, obviously. So needless to say, tonight I'm rooting for the Knicks. Game 4, I'm hoping for 2-2. Going back to MSG for Game 5. Obviously, it's 3-1. Haliburton had a career game. Had himself a masterclass to a tune of, let's see the exact stats right here. Haliburton had 32, 12 rebounds, and 15 assists. 0 turnovers. Right? And to me, that's not even the story of the game. Again, maybe I'm biased because, again, I'm looking at it from an angle of a Knicks fan who wants a 7th game at least, or at least a competitive 2-2 Game 5. But man, I was disappointed in the way Tibbs coached this game. Haliburton, again, he played an incredible game. He was aggressive. The Pacers are a different team when he's aggressive, when he's scoring the ball, when he's looking to shoot, when he's getting 2 feet in the paint, creating 3-point shots for his other team or for his other teammates. And clearly tonight, adding rebounds to that, being hungry on the glass. No doubt he was the best player on the court. Don't get me wrong. I just couldn't believe, and granted now Tibbs was saved by his bench. He went against his instincts and went to his bench in Game 3, and you got good efforts from DeLon Wright, from Landry Shamet, from Deuce McBride, who's had a decent playoff run. But usually we don't see him go 8 deep. And once again, he goes 8 deep tonight. And my problem is he kept Jalen Brunson on the bench way too long in the fourth quarter. In a do-or-die game like this, where it's either you go down 3-1 going back to MSG, or obviously you're 2-2 if you win. I'm not, I'm going back to, if I'm Tibbs, I'm going back to my instincts. And I'm playing Brunson through that entire fourth quarter. Brunson was on the bench, especially for a critical stretch where I don't think I've ever seen anything like this, where the Knicks pick up 4 fouls in 12 seconds of game time, put the Pacers in the bonus. This was from 8:04 to 7:52, I believe. Instantly put the Pacers in the bonus. Brunson then re-enters the game at that point. They're down double digits. I think they're down 12 at this point. I thought OG played fantastic. I thought their swing guys, who have been incredible this entire playoff run, I thought they were incredible in the fourth quarter. Talking about OG, Josh Hart, Miles Bridges. I thought Brunson played really well when he was in the game. I thought Towns played a fantastic game. That being said, again, I'm not taking any shine from Haliburton because Haliburton was incredible. Again, that was the game of his career up to this point. But not sure I loved some of the officiating. It's not the reason they lost. Don't get me wrong. It's not the reason why the Knicks lost. Not sure I loved some of the calls, especially in that stretch of 4 fouls in 12 seconds. 2 or 3 of those seemed fishy. Seemed questionable, I should say, not fishy. Questionable. And then just some of the coaching decisions by Tibbs as far as these subs go. That's what stuck out to me. That being said, Haliburton did a wonderful job of dictating the pace, making the Knicks play at their pace, just playing a frenetic pace of basketball. Uh, Again, when he's getting 2 feet in the paint, creating for others, on top of looking for his own shot, they're damn near unbeatable because they're going to get to at least 115 if he's scoring the ball. And again, if he's creating 3-point shots for his guys. Now, I mentioned Brunson being on the bench for probably a minute and a half too long in this fourth quarter. Brunson was on the bench way too long in game 3. I think they kept him there till the 2 or 3 minute mark, but it didn't matter because Towns had one of the most clutch moments of his career. I thought Towns played very well tonight. Thought Towns was very aggressive. Thought Towns was trying to get to the hole, consistently trying to get to the basket. Rebounded well, which he's done all year. You had some dumb fouls by him, which you'll have that. And again, he was the one in game 2 that I thought sat too long without foul trouble. Then again, it's Brunson tonight. 2 games in a row. 3 games in a row for your Tibbs where you got one of your 2 top guys on the bench for way too long. You just can't have that, especially on the road at Indiana, where they feed off the crowd so well, especially when they go on these scoring sprees, the Indiana Pacers. It's tough to bounce back from. So if I'm the Knicks, you collapse in game 1, right? You get a taste of your own medicine because you took advantage of Celtics collapses in games 1 and 2 of last series. Then you collapse in game 1 to the Pacers. Okay, put yourself in a tough spot. Games 2 and games 4, I look at coaching. I look at Tibbs. And I believe I said it on this podcast going into the conference finals. I said, I think Tibbs saved his job. I think Tibbs is safe for another year. I'm not sure he's necessarily on the hot seat with these coaching decisions. But if I'm a Knicks fan, if I'm the Knicks front office, if I'm Jalen Brunson or Karl Anthony Towns, after games 2 through 4, I can't say I'm the happiest. I can't say I would have a vote of confidence. Again, if I'm the fans, if I'm the front office, if I'm Towns and Brunson. Now, if you're Indy, 1 game away from the finals, unbelievable. And with about 90 seconds left, 2 minutes left, when it looked like the Pacers were still going to win, but the game's still kind of in the balance. But had the Pacers won, of course they did, but had they won, I would have said, hey, I got the Knicks in game 5. They play way too impassioned. They play somewhat disciplined. You get dumb fouls from them here and there. You get overzealous fouls from them here and there, over-aggressive. But by and large, you got some dogs, which is what you want at the end of the day. And you got a home court advantage to MSG. And I've said this before, they're going to get calls in game 5, being down 3-1. They're going to get some calls. They're going to get some breaks. You saw them get some breaks tonight in the third quarter as far as refs go. Fourth quarter, again, not so much. Then back to my point. I'm ready to give them the nod in game 5. About 2 minutes left. Then Towns, who's already battling a knee injury, already battling, I believe, a wrist or a hand injury as well, gets crashed into. Can't remember if it was Neesmith or whoever. It was either Neesmith or Siakam. Crashes into his knee. Looks bad. I thought his season was done right there. Stayed in the game. Dragged his leg around. Does not look good. I'd be surprised if he plays in game 5. And if he does, it'll be in a limited role, in a limited capacity. So I'm wavering on the Knicks in game 5. Truly thought if that's a fully healthy team, Knicks win game 5, and then game 6, it'd be extremely tough. That being said, we'll see with Towns. We'll see if he's able to go. Maybe I'll still give the Knicks some hope, but it's not looking good. It's not looking good. What once looked like it could be a long series looks like it might be over on Thursday night. Pacers fans rejoice. You're one game away. I do not see you coughing it up at all, right? Up 3-1. I don't think there's any way they cough it up, obviously, especially after tonight. I could see, again, if Towns is healthy, if Towns gives you something like 25 and 12 next game and everyone's hitting on all cylinders like they've been, swing guys keep producing, you get 25 plus from Brunson, and you limit Haliburton. I mean, again, Haliburton had this career game. Knicks were still in it. Even with Brunson playing probably 4 less minutes than he should, maybe even 6 less minutes than he should. These guys weren't even in foul trouble. Brunson and Towns. So, we'll see. But again, regardless, the series is over. Even if it gets extended by 1 game, I think the series is over. I think the Pacers for sure will be in the finals. That'll be their second NBA finals. I believe they won an ABA championship back in the day, but this will be their second NBA finals. Last time they appeared, of course, they lost to Kobe and Shaq, their first ring. Last thing I'll say about the series before we move on to OKC, Minnesota. We go back to the Tyrese Haliburton Masterclass. 30, 15, 12, 0 turnovers. Incredibly fun player. Seems to be a big game player. I think now we can go back and say, and again, you can point at me included in this if you went back to our podcast from last playoff run. The Haliburton we saw pre-injury last year, pre-hamstring, bubble Haliburton, in-season tournament Haliburton. That's the real Tyrese Haliburton. We see that now. We see he's a big game player. We see when the lights shine the brightest, it's apparently when he plays his best. And we'll see that for sure going forward in the finals. But the most intriguing conversation to me is, and you're going to see a lot of this, especially once the Pacers officially make it, right? I think we can all call him top 15 for sure. Now you're going to have a lot of top 10 talks. Is he top 10? Of course he's top 10. He's ahead of, XYZ. You're going to see a lot of that over the next week and a half. And it's intriguing to me, and I'm sure Keenan and I will go through it. Keenan, myself, and Brandon will go through it before the start of the finals. It's an interesting conversation to have when you break it down player by player. Off the top of my head, I'm not sure where I would have Tyrese Haliburton. Again, for sure, top 15. Probably top 12 you got to put him. But does it necessarily have to be one of these things where he's automatically top 10 because he makes the NBA Finals? Interesting conversation to have. So stay tuned for that. That's a little teaser about what likely, not only will we be talking about, but probably the NBA world at large, again, over the next week and a half. OKC, Minnesota, I got to say, last night was one of my favorite games of this entire postseason. I thought it was an extremely well-played game. I learned so much about both teams, especially OKC, especially their young guys, because that's not an easy environment to play in. You're up 2-1. If you get tight and miss some shots late, no one's really going to say anything. No one's really going to be affected by that. You're favored to win the series. You're favored to win the chip. And ultimately, you go home for Game 5. And if you lose 2 on the road as a young team, not ideal, but you can see why that happens to a young team especially. That's not what happened, though. Jalen Williams, J-Dub, Chet Holmgren made some timely shots, made some timely threes, some timely defensive plays as well, over and over and over again in the second half of yesterday's game. Each played a total just great two-way game. but especially in the second half. I could not believe how poised, I could not believe how timely their clutch plays were. That's on top of SGA, just doing what he does, balling out. Obviously, when I said I was going to record Tuesday night after the Knicks Pacers, it was to review both games 3 and 4 of each series. I wanted this current homestand for each team to pass before I recorded and reviewed. And, I gave you a brief review of Pacers Knicks game 3. Towns went off, bench saved them. Towns legacy game, we know all that. In this series, absolutely nothing to speak of in game 3. Timberwolves were just on another planet that game. Right? All the usual suspects, all the suspects you need to have a big game, whether it's Anthony Edwards, whether it's Julius Randle, whether it's Rudy Gobert, whether it's Naz Reid, everyone just firing on all cylinders. Then this game, as I tell you, game 4, SGA, Chet, J-Dub. If you're OKC, you get some big Caruso minutes. Just their bench as a whole played well. That whole team played well in game 4. Then if you're the Timberwolves and Randall, just have poor games. Poor games. You can't have that. Down 2-1 at home. That's your time to shine if you're Anthony Edwards. And Randall's had a tough series. He's had a great postseason coming into this game, coming into this series. And he's only played well in the game 3. Okay, maybe you're due for some bad games. Maybe you're due to regress to the means because he hasn't had the best postseason career. But Ant, for all the love we give him, for all the love and expectations and praise we give him, he has too many games, man, where he just 16 points. I think he had 4 points going into the second half. Can't happen. Too shy with it. And I know the defenses are throwing stuff at him. They're putting heavy doubles or heavy pressure his way. But he's too talented and too athletic not to still have an impact on the game. And their role players played incredible. Specifically Nas, specifically Nickeil Alexander-Walker, specifically Jaden McDaniels. Incredible games. Incredible games from those 3. I could not be more impressed with those 3. Again, a big reason why, especially if they can keep Nas. I think McDaniels and Alexander-Walker will be there for some time. Naz Reid, obviously, his contract ends after this season. Man, if they can keep that core together, and however long you might have Rudy, obviously you got Ant there forever, Lord willing. You're always going to have a chance with those guys. To have role players who are that conditioned to be playoff performers, that much of dogs, like just to have that in your back pocket, that usually takes years to develop. You usually got to go out and find those guys. And they got Alexander Walker. They got him via trade, but they got essentially these guys in-house. Right? Alexander Walker's young. Like, they didn't have to go get an 8-year vet to find these playoff-ready guys. They got them in-house with Naz Reid, Alexander Walker, McDaniels, DiVincenzo. They went out and got him. You got fantastic games from those 4. If you get even a good effort from one of Anthony Edwards or Julius Randle yesterday, probably win that game. You most likely win that game. T-Wolves bench outscored the starters 64-62, which in some ways could be a good thing. That's still a winnable game. But, again, not great shooting efforts from Randle and Edwards. You just need one of those guys to pop off. But overall, a good team effort. It's just that OKC, man. Again, they're young guys. I want to say you book on one of them having a bad game. But it seems like throughout this postseason, if J-Dub's having a rough game, maybe Chet picks it up. Or if Chet's having a rough game, maybe J. It seems like one of them's off, at least over the last couple of weeks. SGA's been a constant, obviously. But if you got all three hitting on all cylinders, on top of your bench, on top of your 3-point shot falling, which that's been rough for them this postseason for OKC. 3-point shots came and went for them. It's a tough break for the T-Wolves. Because there's a world where they certainly win that game. Obviously, they're down 3, forever there at the end of the ball game, which I'll talk about in a sec. But first I want to talk about SGA, because I'm getting incredibly sick of the whole foul baiting conversation when it pertains to him. I'm not saying he doesn't foul bait. He does. And guess what? Every star does it. Every single star in the league, to some degree, foul baits. I go as far to say every star in the history of the league foul baits. It's a matter of how you bait the fouls, right? If you're Kobe, if you're Dwayne Wade, it's more like off the pump fake, right? Or Dwayne Wade or MJ or, again, Kobe. All three of these guys, they would all go to the rim. Iverson was great at this too. Just continuously go to the rim, play after play after play, and just put pressure on the refs. Wish we saw more players do that, honestly. Just go to the rim, get in the air. Westbrook in his prime was good at this too. And see what happens. Create contact in the air and put pressure on the refs. Again, we don't see that as much with the rise of the 3-point shot, the more perimeter this game gets. So you get more foul baiting in the James Harden, SGA, Jalen Brunson, Trae Young type of mold, where it's more off the dribble. It's more kind of, you can call it herky-jerky foul baiting in a way. A lot of and I understand this, it's annoying. Like the arm hooking, I can't stand that. Harden and Trae Young, especially James Harden, they're masters of it. So I completely understand it when we talk about SGA with the head movements. He flops a little. He acts more than he flops. There's flopping, there's acting. I feel like SGA, when I'm watching him, I feel like he's acting more than he is flopping. So there's an art to it. And the difference between SGA and these other guys is we've seen SGA. If you saw him in the Olympics, that game against France, go watch that game against France in the Final Four of the Olympics from this past year. That game is, if it's possible, to be more physical than the NBA playoffs have been, especially in the conference finals. You'll see that in the playoffs. Round by round, it just gets more and more physical. Stakes obviously raised, so the refs back off, let the players play. France, Canada in the Final Four of this year's Olympics, or the 2024 Olympics, I should say, possibly more physical than the NBA playoffs. They were just letting them play. They were letting France get away with a lot, honestly, with France hosting the Olympics. So Canada was not getting many calls. And all their guys were just getting pushed around. And Jamal Murray's having a rough game. Nobody on Canada could get their own shot. And in the middle of this football game, SGA is just getting buckets. Don't matter if he's playing internationally. Don't matter. Like, he was not, you can't foul him. They won't reward that in international ball like they do in the NBA. If we want to call it that, foul baiting, foul hunting, the throwing the head back, embellishing. Don't matter what court on the planet you're on, SGA is going to get buckets. And to me, pound for pound, he's the best scorer in the league. That includes Kevin Durant, who still deserves some shine because, I mean, yeah, he can get a bucket on any court in America, on any player, right? Any player in the league. Does not matter if you're KD. But for my money, if I got one guy to get open, get himself open, and knock down a shot, especially in crunch time, I'm picking SGA. I'm rolling with SGA. Kevin Durant's a close second. Kevin Durant's a 1B probably. Luka's up there too as well. I'll throw Jokic in there. Pound for pound, I think I'm taking SGA right now. last thing I want to touch on before I depart. This fouling up 3, if you're the team that's up 3, and not wanting to let off a 3-point shot at the end of the game. It is certainly irritating to watch, and I see a lot of discourse about the NBA is going to find a way to ban it. The NBA is going to find a way to let the flow of the game dictate itself. To not let the game come to a stall in the last minute, last 30, 40 seconds. If you're up 3 and you're fouling the team that's down 3, not letting them get a 3-point shot off. Then it turns into a foul shooting contest, essentially. I understand the discourse. I really do. Completely get where they're coming from. I hope Adam Silver does not come up with a rule to ban this. It is ugly to watch. It's not fun to watch at all. It's not aesthetically pleasing. I understand all that. But that's just a basic strategy. Right? If you don't want to let them get the 3-point shot off, I don't love that. But we saw the Thunder mess it up for themselves earlier in the postseason against the Nuggets. And that game 1. They fouled too early. Came back to bite them. They missed their foul shots. Nuggets send it to OT on an airborne 3. So it can backfire. And in general, there's no way to really legislate it. I mean, if they decide to foul, they decide to foul. You can't really take that away. That's a smart strategy. Now, where it gets annoying is where, yes, it's a smart strategy, but then all the teams want to act on this strategy. Then when you got every team doing it, then it seems insane. And I don't love it from a competition standpoint, but from a coach's point of view, I understand it. 2 things I'd compare it to. I was watching the baseball postseason this past fall, and they had said, and I don't know, I mean, if you're a baseball fan watching this, you'd already know this, but apparently in years past, they got rid of the rule, or they instituted a rule where you cannot sub pitcher for one batter. A pitcher has to face 2 batters or 3 batters. They can't just face one batter and then be subbed out for another pitcher. Because managers were doing it for like a lefty pitcher to face a lefty hitter and vice versa. And I heard that, and the reason why they took it out was essentially to speed up the game, right? So these games aren't 4 hours long. But I heard that, and I took that as like, man, this is the postseason. If a manager wants to overmanage to the point of winning a ball game, because that's what you're trying to do in the postseason, let them. What's the big deal? That's how I feel about this. If you feel the need to foul up 3 and you don't want them to even have a chance at shooting a 3, there's nothing illegal to intentional foul. It's not like it's a flagrant foul. They're not hurting anybody, literally. It's well within the rules of the game. Do it. So I felt about that pitching rule, the subbing the pitcher rule. That's how I feel about this up 3 intentional foul rule. It's hard to find a way around it. We've seen many times in years past where it seems like players time it to the exact moment they get fouled and get a shot up, and refs will just call it off without even really looking at it. They'll say it's on the floor. The one comparison I would have to this, and I thought this was a good rule change by the NBA, was the hack-a-shack, right? Only way to stop Shaq was to intentionally foul him, get in the bonus, slow the game down completely. You're not even watching basketball at this point. And just make Shaq go to the line over and over and over. And eventually, these teams stopped, right? If he ever got in a rhythm, if he ever, eventually, of course, when he comes out of the game, but eventually, these teams would stop. It got obnoxious. And then we saw it resurface with Dwight Howard, with DeAndre Jordan. That's when the NBA put a stop to it. It was when, I think it was a DeAndre Jordan year. It was the final straw. I thought that was okay. And they only put a stop to it up until what, the last 2 minutes of the game, right? It's not, I think it's the last 2 minutes of the game. Up until then, you're allowed to hack a whoever, hack a Shaq, hack a Jordan, hack a Dwight, whatever. I feel like they got to come up with a new name after hack a Shaq. That rhymes. That makes sense. I feel like if you're talking about Dwight Howard, DeAndre Jordan, Mitchell Robinson, I feel like you got to drop the hacka. I feel like that's got to become a different sort of pun, different sort of nickname, right? Um, But I felt like that makes more sense because the flow of the game is completely dictated by the intentional fouling. So I'm okay with them getting rid of that or limiting that to some degree because you don't want to see that in the last 2 minutes of a game, right? But being up three and having the opportunity, having the choice to intentionally foul to put them at the line, especially if they're in the bonus, uh, that situation's been there as long as basketball's been around, as long as the 3-point line has been around. How do you legislate that? You can't say, oh, you can't intentionally foul, because then how do you legislate what is and what isn't a foul? Teams will get smart and find creative ways to foul. You can just run over to a player and reach at them, right? You can't really legislate it. So I don't see any way around it. I don't see any solution to it. So I think the strategy, fortunately or unfortunately, is here to stay. Hopefully, the teams who are down three, who are trying to get up a three, maybe can find ways to beat this. Maybe that requires better sideline out of bounds plays, better baseline out of bounds plays. I don't know. I don't know what the answer is, but I don't see it going away anytime soon. I don't see a rule legislating it. I don't see anything outlawing this strategy. And if it does, I'd be upset, honestly. Even though, again, it's not great to watch, and I know it's as much as it is sport, it is entertainment. I understand that. But you got to keep the sport aspect in it too. It is a smart, sound strategy at the end of the day. I don't love it. Can't say I agree with it either, but if I was a coach, why wouldn't you do that? Especially if you're facing, a prolific 3-point shooting team. So I don't think we'll see any change to it. But if you want a prediction for tomorrow's game, right? We got Thunder also up 3-1, one game away from the finals. Where the Timberwolves have an advantage, down 3-1 on the road. Doesn't seem like you have any advantage there. The only advantage I could see them having would be that they are more so the vet team than OKC. Both are young, but I would say the T-Wolves are probably slightly older in age and probably older in playoff experience. Definitely older in playoff experience. I would say OKC is going to go in there. Again, it's an assumption. I would assume these young guys go in there thinking the series is over compared to a vet team, right? OKC's young guys are going to go out there playing free and maybe a little bit with their guard down, again, because they think the series is over. It's not over. We know what the Minnesota Timberwolves are made of. They're going to come out and fight. And especially if Ant's rolling, if it's one of these games where Ant's unguardable, you're going to have as good of a chance as anybody, right? Especially if Randall's giving you at least 20, rebound the ball well, hit some threes, on top of your role guys playing well. Because that's one difference with the T-Wolves. Their role guys play well anywhere, especially at home, but they play well anywhere. Especially the four that I named. DiVincenzo, Alexander Walker, McDaniels, Naz Reid. Even though Naz Reid had some rough games leading into the series, even at the first two games of the series. But those four guys produce. You get a good game from Randall, and you get a game from Anthony Edwards like he should be having consistently. Game should go down to the wire again. And maybe you can catch the Thunder, again, feeling themselves a little too much, especially the young guys, to where they're playing maybe a little too carefree. That's where you can use their youth against them, right? But they're a well-coached team, and their leader, SGA, he's cool as ice. So maybe that keeps them grounded. And if that's the case, Thunder probably should win tomorrow. I do think the T-Wolves are a tough team to beat 4 out of 5 games. And in this case, I said I would pick the Knicks regardless going back to MSG, right? Even though Towns is injured. That one looks iffy with Towns injured, right? T-Wolves are completely healthy. This is just going to be a tough place to play, being it's OKC, on top of the toughest defensive team to play. On top of being a 68-win team. So it's a lot to ask for the T-Wolves, but they got the team, the roster, the defense. They can match OKC physically on defense. We saw that last game. They were making timely spot-up shots, which is usually the difference between a win and a loss in this league, especially in late postseason games. That, rebounding, dumb fouls, but mainly it's, when SGA, when Anthony Edwards, when Jalen Brunson, Tyrese Haliburton, when they don't get the ball, who's going to make a shot? OKC's guys were making shots. Can they do that again in Game 5 in a closeout game to go to the finals? No pressure, but also pressure. You know what I mean? That's the kind of game they're in tomorrow. So I think there will be a way for Minnesota to take advantage of that. I don't think you're going to see Minnesota rolled over and quit here. So I'm going to hope, obviously I'm rooting for this, but I'm going to hope that Minnesota wins. I think that's their only angle, is if, again, these young guys just come out with their guard down a little bit on OKC's side. If that happens, yeah, Minnesota's got a chance. So I'm going to give you this. I'm going to give you Minnesota 104-101. You might see me post game tomorrow. All depends on how the game goes. If it's a blowout, you won't see me. So just for that, just in case I don't show up tomorrow, I'll give you a Knicks Pacers Game 5 Thursday night prediction early. I'll tell you like this right now. I'll say this. I'll say if Towns does not go, I'm going to give you 119-106 Pacers. If Towns does not go, it's going to be tough. You would have to play Brunson and the rest of your starting unit, especially because your bench would be all swing guys, unless Precious Achiuwa is getting minutes there with Towns out. You'd have to play Mitch, the 3 swing guys, Brunson, to have to play them, and then Deuce on top of that. You'd have to play those guys 40-plus minutes. And then Deuce is probably playing something like 30 minutes off the bench. If Towns does play, and if Towns can move, and Towns looks as effective as he has most of the series, I'm going to say the Knicks got it out to a tune of 112-109. How about that? Is that more rooting interest than belief? Maybe. But yeah, I'm hoping for Game 6s in both series. And I would have said if Towns was completely healthy, if Towns makes it out of that game completely healthy, I would say the Knicks have a better chance than the Timberwolves to win their Game 5, especially at home. Again, now I'm skeptical with Towns being hurt. But there, you got 2 predictions for the Knicks, and you got 1 for T-Wolves Thunder tomorrow. I think we'll at least get a great game tomorrow. I don't think the Thunder pull away. Even if the T-Wolves lose, I don't think it's going to be one of those games. I think we're going to get another tight game. Again, last night's game was just fantastically played. On top of the Pacers-Knicks, which is the whole series on Pacers-Knicks side, has been an incredible series to watch. Great basketball on both sides of the ball. Great defensive efforts. High scoring on top of that. I know I just said great defensive efforts, but you're seeing real hustle, real grit from both teams. I mean, you saw Towns try to gut it out tonight. on what could be a serious knee injury. Right? He was both injured and hurt. So we'll see. It's been a fantastic playoffs. I thought both of these series would go long. Both of these series, we could have our NBA finals by Thursday. Before the weekend. Before the last weekend in May, we could have this all wrapped up, and then we got to wait till next Thursday. So I'm rooting against that. Hopefully we get at least one game 6. I think we will get at least one game 6. How about that? We'll be back.